Hello everyone and welcome back to another lesson here at English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine. So Marco, what are we talking about today?
Today we're talking about a very interesting topic. You've probably seen it on every TV show or American movie, and it's a bachelor party.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
I've heard bad things.
Bad things about a bachelor party. Well, they can be fun, but at times they can be a little bit too excessive, too much. But before we get started on the dialogue, why don't we take a look at vocabulary preview?
Vocabulary preview.
Well, the first word we've got here is the topic of today. This is the bachelor party. So what is a bachelor exactly?
Right. Well, a bachelor is a person who is not married. A single person. A single guy specifically, right?
All right. So it's a man.
Man.
Before he's married.
Right. So for women, you would say a bachelorette.
Okay, bachelor is a guy and a bachelorette is a girl. And so we don't really say bachelorette except when we're talking about this party.
Right. So a bachelor party is a party that a guy has the day before he's married or maybe 2 or 3 days before he actually gets married. So it's a night where all his friends get together, they go out, they have some drinks, they have some fun, and just like the last extreme fun he will have before he gets married.
All right, and so it's all his guy friends.
All his guy friends. Only guys, no girls.
And the bachelorette party is only girls, and it's when a girl's friends take her out before she gets married to celebrate her last night or two of being unmarried.
Right, exactly. So not only guys' parties can get a little bit crazy, but girls' bachelorette parties can also get kind of crazy, right?
That's true. So before we start talking about what exactly goes on at some of these parties, let's take a listen to today's dialogue and hear what happens to our main characters.
Hi, honey. You'll never guess what. My friends Julie and Alex are getting married.
Wow, that's great news. They're a great couple.
I know. Anyways, I just talked to Alex's best man, and he is organizing the bachelor party. It's gonna be so much fun. All the groomsmen are thinking up all the wacky and crazy things we're gonna do that night.
You aren't going to a strip club, are you? I don't want you getting a lap dance from some stripper with the excuse that it's your friend's party.
Ah, come on. It's just some innocent fun. You know how these things are. We're gonna play drinking games, get him some gag gifts, and just have a good time. Nothing too over the top.
Well, I don't know.
Come on. If one of your friends was getting married, I wouldn't mind you going to her bachelorette party.
Good, because my friend Wendy's getting married, and I'm organizing her party.
What?
All right, great. So apparently both of them have parties to go to, but I don't think the guy was too happy about it.
I don't think so either. And that's the funny thing. I think a lot of girls are like, oh, well, my husband-to-be, he wants to have a party. It's okay. But the minute the girl wants to have the party, the guy is like, no way.
That's true. I guess, we can talk a little bit more about this towards the end. Before we start on this really interesting topic, why don't we take a look at some of the language on Language Takeaway?
Language takeaway.
Well, Marco, the first few words are actually more wedding terms than bachelor party terms. The first one is best man.
Right, the best man. So the best man is... Who is he exactly?
He's usually the groom's best friend. So the groom is the man getting married, and his best friend has the position of best man. So he has some special things to do at the wedding. He has to make a speech, for example, and he has to stand next to his friend when the friend gets married.
Right.
And it's just a very special position of honor that the best friend has in his friend's wedding.
Okay, and among those responsibilities, the best man is usually the one that has to organize the bachelor party, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so best man. And, well, the rest of the groom's friends are also present at the wedding, and they are called the groomsmen.
All right, so groomsmen. And so usually these are maybe 3 to 5 guys, 3 to 5 men, who are friends of the groom or brother of the bride. It depends on the wedding. And they stand with the man when he gets married. And so they kind of have a lot of responsibilities as well.
Okay, and the groomsmen usually are also present at the bachelor party.
Exactly.
All right. Now moving on to a bit more colorful of language, we have a place here, a strip club.
Okay, so sometimes you see these in movies oftentimes, or for example, the TV show The Sopranos. This is often a place where Tony Soprano goes. A strip club is a club. It's like a bar that's open most of the day and night, where there are women who take their clothes off for money.
All right, so you have the verb to strip, right? A strip club. So the verb to strip means to take off or leave without something.
Right, so you can strip off your clothes.
So it's usually used with clothes, right? To take off clothes, to strip. So you have a strip club, and in the strip club, you have as you mentioned, the girls that are dancing and taking off their clothes. They are called strippers.
Okay, so stripper is a person who takes off their clothes as their job. And you can have male strippers or female strippers.
True.
So usually just saying stripper is a woman, and a male stripper is actually a guy.
Okay, so you have this club that's very common in many countries, and, well, the strippers are dancing, and now they also talked about getting a lap dance.
Okay, now this is getting a little bit, a little dirty. Lap is it's not really a part of your body, but when you sit down in a chair, your lap is the tops of your legs, so you can... you can hold something in your lap, like your backpack.
Or maybe, for example, if you have a child that's 3 or 4 years old, you would sit him on your lap, right, on your legs while you're sitting down, maybe in the subway.
Right, or a laptop computer is the kind of computer you can hold
on your lap.
On your lap.
So a lap dance is when one of the female strippers comes and kind of dances on your lap.
Exactly, and so it's a sexy dance. You pay for it extra, and it's something that is very popular with young men and people who, these grooms and groomsmen before the groom gets married.
Right. All right. And moving on, we have the last word for today, gag gifts.
All right, gag gifts are joke gifts. They're meant to be funny. They're not meant to be serious.
Right.
And they're very popular at these kinds of bachelor parties and bachelorette parties. One kind of gag gift that's just very silly is like a whoopee cushion.
Right.
It's like a balloon you put on someone's seat, and when they sit down, it makes a farting sound.
Right. So those are gag gifts. Anything that's kind of to joke around. It's not really useful. It's not like giving somebody a T-shirt, right?
Right. Or a gift card is a nice gift. It's not. It's not a gag gift.
Right. So there are a lot of different types of gag gifts, and actually some of them are pretty good and funny, like like spicy chewing gum or the electric shocker.
Oh yeah.
When you shake somebody's hand.
That's really funny. Yeah.
All right, so we've taken a look at a lot of words on Language Takeaway. So let's listen to this dialogue again, and we'll be right back with Fluency Builder.
Hi, honey. You'll never guess what. My friends Julie and Alex are getting married.
Wow, that's great news. They're a great couple.
I know. Anyways, I just talked to Alex's best man, and he is organizing the bachelor party. It's going to be so much fun. All the groomsmen are thinking up all the wacky and crazy things we're going to do that night.
You aren't going to a strip club, are you? I don't want you getting a lap dance from some stripper with the excuse that it's your friend's party.
Ah, come on. It's just some innocent fun. You know how these things are. We're going to play drinking games, get him some gag gifts, and just have a good time. Nothing too over the top.
Well, I don't know.
Come on. If one of your friends was getting married, I wouldn't mind you going to her bachelorette party.
Good, because my friend Wendy's getting married, and I'm organizing her party.
What?
All right, we're back. So now let's look at some of the phrases that were used in this dialogue on Fluency Builder.
Fluency Builder.
All right, so at the beginning of this dialogue, we meet this couple, this man and woman, and the guy says, "Hey, honey, you'll never guess what."
All right.
Okay, my friends are getting married. So what does this mean? You'll never guess what?
It's just a phrase that you would use to give really, really important or exciting news. It's like, guess what?
Oh, okay. So you'll never guess what happened to me.
Right.
I won the lottery.
Right. It's so amazing or it's so uncommon or unusual that you would probably never guess that person won the lottery.
Okay, so you'll never guess what.
Right. You'll never guess what. Or you can say, guess what? I won the lottery.
Okay.
All right. And our second phrase, you know how these things are.
Okay, so this is a phrase that people often use when they want to remind someone that this is tradition or this is a habit. It's a common thing. And so oftentimes when like people are having problems at work and they say, oh gosh, this person's just not listening to me, someone to help them out will say, you know how these things are. It takes some time to resolve a problem. Or you could say, oh gosh, this is going to be a horrible party. I don't want you guys to go to a strip club. It's so dirty.
Right.
And you'd say, well, you know how these things are. It's tradition.
You have to do it.
You have to do it.
Right. So this is what he meant, right? You know how these things are. It's like, I don't really have a choice. It's a tradition. This is what guys do when they're going to get married. So we have to do it.
It's almost like saying, don't worry about it. There's really
nothing to worry about. All right. And our last phrase is something that we never want to happen, something to be over the top.
Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing, okay?
Right.
So we could say that it was a really ridiculous party. It was really over the top. They had a clown and they had people dressed up like Star Trek characters. Something that is more than normal. It's almost silly the way that it's all just kind of crazy and... yeah, it's too much in every way.
Right. So it can be something bad, like, for example, someone's behavior was over the top. It was too much. It was too intense.
Or like, oh my gosh, did you see her coat? It's really over the top. It's like purple with sprinkles on it.
Right. So it can be used in different ways, but it usually means it's excessive. It's too much.
Exactly.
All right. So some interesting phrases on this occasion as well. Let's listen to our dialogue for the last time, and we'll be back.
Hi, honey. You'll never guess what. My friends Julie and Alex are getting married.
Wow, that's great news. They're a great couple.
I know. Anyways, I just talked to Alex's best man, and he is organizing the bachelor party. It's going to be so much fun. All the groomsmen are thinking up all the wacky and crazy things we're going to do that night.
You aren't going to a strip club, are you? I don't want you getting a lap dance from some stripper with the excuse that it's your friend's party.
Ah, come on. It's just some innocent fun. You know how these things are. We're gonna play drinking games, get him some gag gifts, and just have a good time. Nothing too over the top.
Well, I don't know.
Come on. If one of your friends was getting married, I wouldn't mind you going to her bachelorette party.
Good, because my friend Wendy's getting married, and I'm organizing her party.
What?
All right, we're back. So bachelor and bachelorette parties. Have you ever been to a bachelorette party?
I have not yet, but one of my closest friends is getting married in a couple of weeks. And so I will be attending and helping organize a bachelor party.
So do you have anything in mind?
Nothing I can talk about. These things are meant to be surprises oftentimes, so I don't want to spoil it. But I will tell you that my boyfriend just organized a bachelor party for his best friend. He was the best man in the wedding.
Oh, okay.
And it was very crazy.
Oh, really? Did they also go to Vegas and do some of these things that we saw in the dialogue?
They didn't go to Vegas, but they did some of the things we heard about in today's dialogue. They went to a strip club. They got lap dances. They drank a lot. It was very over the top.
And I think this is something that most of our listeners probably have seen in TV shows or in movies or in different type of exposure of American culture, which is it's actually very, very common in Canada, the United States. I'm not really sure about Europe or
England. It is too.
Really,
my friend said that his friend was getting married, and they all went to Portugal for a week.
Wow.
To have a bachelor party, and I heard something about mud wrestling.
Wow. Well, I guess it's different in every country, and this is the interesting part. We want to know how these things are in your country. Do you have any traditions or any fun stuff that you do before the wedding, maybe after? I don't know.
What about Ecuador?
We don't really have strip clubs, actually. So it's
that makes it easy.
Yeah. So we usually just do what we do every night. Just go out with friends, drink and dance, play the guitar, or yeah, maybe some gag gifts or some prank that we would pull on the groom, but nothing too over the top. So yeah, we're really interested in knowing how it is in your country, so come to englishpod.com, leave your questions, comments, and we'll see you guys next time.
Until then, bye everyone.
Bye-bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word.
You won't believe. You will never guess. The principal groomsman at a wedding. Best man. You don't know what news I have. You will never guess. A party held for a man that is getting married. Bachelor party. A male friend who attends a bridegroom at his wedding. Groomsman. Absurdly or amusingly eccentric or irrational. Wacky. Funny or adult type toys or gifts. Gag gift. Extreme, excessive. Over the top. An unmarried woman. Bachelorette.
Let's try that faster.
A party held for a man that is getting married. Bachelor party. You won't believe. You will never guess. A male friend who attends a bridegroom at his wedding. Groomsman. Absurdly or amusingly eccentric or irrational. Wacky. An unmarried woman. Bachelorette. Extreme, excessive. Over the top. You don't know what news I have. You will never guess. The principal groomsman at a wedding. Best man. Funny or adult type toys or gifts. Gag gift.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
You will never guess. You'll never guess who I just saw at the supermarket. Brad Pitt! You will never guess. You'll never guess what just happened to me. I won the lottery. You will never guess. You'll never guess how late I stayed at work until last night. 11 p.m. Bachelor party. For many men, a bachelor party is a way to say goodbye to having a free life. Bachelor party. Often, it's the best man who arranges the bachelor party. Bachelor party. His fiancée is really against the idea of a bachelor party. Over the top. Those purple jeans are just over the top. Over the top. I'm not looking for anything too over the top, just a nice quiet evening with friends. Over the top. Did you see his mohawk? It's really over the top. Gag gift. They don't like to take birthdays too seriously, so they always buy each other gag gifts. Gag gift. I love shopping for gag gifts. They're always so silly. Gag gift. He didn't want a serious gift, so I just got him a whoopee cushion as a gag gift. Best man. He doesn't know if he should choose his brother or his best friend to be his best man. Best man. At American weddings, the best man traditionally gives a toast to the bride and groom. Best man. The best man has many responsibilities at a wedding, some say even more than the groom himself.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Pod. We have an advanced lesson for you today. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and I'm very excited about this lesson, Marco.
It's very interesting. It's about a very controversial topic and a very popular person in history, Charles Darwin.
That's right. So he's most famous perhaps for his book, The Origin of the Species. And we're going to be talking a lot about science today. So put your thinking caps on.
All right. So without further ado, why don't we listen to this dialogue for the first time?
Man, it's been forever. What have you been up to lately?
I've been busy preparing for my exams, not to mention all the term papers I've had to write.
Same here. I'm up to my neck in work, but at least we've got summer holidays after finals. Where are you headed now?
I'm going to my anthro class. We've been focusing on Darwin all term, since it's the 200th anniversary of his birth or whatever. I'm sick and tired of Darwin, Darwin, Darwin!
What? Why? How can you not like Darwin? His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. His theory of evolution revolutionized the fields of biology and anthropology.
I don't like him. His theory of human evolution and natural selection is full of holes. It's not as solid as you make it out to be.
Say that again and you'll make enemies with half of the academy, not to mention your professors. Furthermore, the explanation proposed by Darwin about the origin of the species and the process of natural selection constitutes a grand step towards a coherent understanding of the world and its very beginnings.
I'm not minimizing his huge contributions to science. It's just that his theory reminds me of the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
What are you talking about?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This is a classic logical problem, and I think it applies to Darwin's theory. How did the very first living organism come to be?
Interesting. I think that question is better suited for my philosophy class. In the meantime, how about we settle this with a duel?
All right, interesting. They have very different views on Charles Darwin, right?
They do, and they're both pretty nerdy people. This is a very nerdy university conversation that's happening between classes.
Yeah, I think maybe they're like PhD candidates or something.
Perhaps. All right, so before we get to talking about some of the ideas in today's dialogue, let's talk about some of the words and phrases that we hear to understand better what's going on. The first part we're going to talk about in today's language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, on language takeaway today, let's take a look at the first word. And, well, one of the things that many people say is that Darwin revolutionized the fields of biology.
And so he revolutionized these because he pushed them forward. He made many changes. He forced changes. So people had to change the way that they thought about these things.
If you revolutionize something, a topic or an idea, you are creating new knowledge almost, right?
Exactly. You can think of the word revolution, which is a thing. So you think of the Russian Revolution or the American Revolution. These are times of change. So to revolutionize is to bring about change.
Very good. All right, so moving forward, they were talking about human evolution. Human evolution. What is that exactly?
Good question. So you're not a monkey, I'm not a monkey, but we come from monkeys, right?
So we evolved.
Right. So the process is called human evolution. That means the process by which humans changed forms to become what we are today.
Okay, so you evolve. Now, is it evolution? You usually think of something positive, right? Something evolves into something better. Is it always that way?
No, we have another word for the negative, right? So the positive is to evolve, to become better. To get worse is to devolve.
Okay.
To devolve, to go back and to kind of lose things that you had.
Okay, interesting. And then they were also talking about Darwin's theory of natural selection. Natural selection.
Okay, this is maybe one of the things that Darwin was most famous for, and that's why we've included it in this language takeaway, because it's a key phrase. It's something you hear people talk about a lot. Okay, so natural selection is a process, again, and it's the process by which stronger animals survive over time and weaker animals don't. So if there's a weak species, it can't really survive because it keeps dying and dying, and then finally there's no more. And so this is called natural selection because no one's actually choosing what animals will survive, but it's kind of a natural process.
Right. Mother Nature is choosing it.
Right.
Very good. So natural selection. This is one of the things that Darwin is most famous for. And well, as Catherine mentioned, Darwin wrote the book Origin of the Species.
Right. So origin means beginning. So the origin of mankind, right? So there are many different kinds of animals. You could even say there are many different kinds of like mammals, but there are many different species within that. So human beings, black bears, koalas, chimpanzees, these are all species. And so a species is a classification. So the origin of the species is kind of a way of telling the story of how all these things came about.
All right. The origin of the species. And the last one, this word is kind of strange. He talked about the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
Okay, conundrum. I love this word. It's very funny sounding.
Yeah, it
Conundrum.
Conundrum.
It means like a problem or a riddle or something that's hard to understand.
All right. So in this case, it's the conundrum of the chicken and the egg, right? Which came first? How else can you use conundrum?
You could say that maybe there's a situation that's very strange and hard to understand. This is quite a conundrum.
This is quite a conundrum we have.
Yes. So
It sounds very fancy, very well educated.
it does.
All right. So interesting words on language takeaway. Why don't we move on now to 4 phrases on Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
All right. On Fluency Builder today, we have 4 phrases, as we said. So what's the first one?
The first one is great. It's very visual. You say, I'm up to my neck in work. Or I'm up to my neck in papers to write. All right, so this means I have so much stuff to do that you could pile it up and it would come up to my neck.
So I have as many papers that are almost as tall as I am.
Exactly. And so I could say, I'm up to my neck in work. I have no more time to do anything.
Sometimes people also say I'm up to here, and then they'll
The point.
they'll point at their forehead or somewhere around their head. I'm up to here with your nonsense.
Exactly. So
Right.
this is a way of saying that I'm really busy.
I'm really busy. I'm really tired of it. All right. And our next phrase is one that most mothers use. I'm sick and tired.
Ugh, I'm sick and tired of all of your whining. Go do the dishes and don't complain.
Right. So it always goes together. You are sick and tired.
Right, and sick comes first. So I'm sick and tired of this. I'm sick and tired of your bad attitude.
Okay. So, and that means that you are...
I'm just tired of it. I don't want you to have a bad attitude anymore. Or I'm just,
I'm really
done.
annoyed by it.
I'm annoyed.
Okay, sick and tired. And then we saw a phrase that was a little bit separated. He said, the sentence went like this. His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. So to turn something on its head.
Like you said, Marco, it's split into 2 parts. So he turned the field of computer science on its head. So to turn on its head means to completely reverse something, to turn it around. You think 180 degrees.
Okay.
And so if biology used to be one way, then Darwin made it completely different.
So we can say that Isaac Newton completely turned physics on its head with his theory or his findings on gravity.
And then, years and years later, we had Albert Einstein, who turned those theories, or who turned that theory on its head with his own ideas about physics.
Very good. So to turn something on its head, to completely change the course of or prove something to be maybe wrong. And the last phrase that we have is the person argued that Darwin's theories were full of holes.
Okay, so to say a theory is full of holes is a little bit different than saying that his pants are full of holes, because when you say something is full of holes, maybe they actually have holes. But a theory it's an idea, so it can't have holes. What you're saying is that it's not completely sound. It's not without some problems. And so maybe you're saying that, the cookies are gone out of the kitchen, Marco, and I saw you in the kitchen, so clearly you ate the cookies.
Right, so I can say that's full of holes because it was me and it was 3 other people who were in the kitchen, so you can't blame me.
It could have been the other 2 people.
Right. So if something is full of holes, it's that it has maybe mistakes or it's still missing complete evidence to prove it right.
Or it has bad logic.
Bad logic. All right. Interesting. So we've taken a look at a lot of words and different phrases here. Let's listen to this argument one last time.
on, it's been forever. What have you been up to lately?
I've been busy preparing for my exams, not to mention all the term papers I've had to write.
Same here. I'm up to my neck in work, but at least we've got summer holidays after finals. Where are you headed now?
I'm going to my anthro class. We've been focusing on Darwin all term, since it's the 200th anniversary of his birth or whatever. I'm sick and tired of Darwin, Darwin, Darwin!
What? Why? How can you not like Darwin? His work turned thousands of years of ideas about creation on their head. His theory of evolution revolutionized the fields of biology and anthropology.
I don't like him. His theory of human evolution and natural selection is full of holes. It's not as solid as you make it out to be.
Say that again and you'll make enemies with half of the academy, not to mention your professors. Furthermore, the explanation proposed by Darwin about the origin of the species and the process of natural selection constitutes a grand step towards a coherent understanding of the world and its very beginnings.
I'm not minimizing his huge contributions to science. It's just that his theory reminds me of the conundrum of the chicken and the egg.
What are you talking about?
Which came first, the chicken or the egg? This is a classic logical problem, and I think it applies to Darwin's theory. How did the very first living organism come to be?
Interesting. I think that question is better suited for my philosophy class. In the meantime, how about we settle this with a duel?
All right, we're back. So interesting, this Darwin's theories and his explanations for the origin of species and life as we know it. But there is the opposite to this, right? There is a certain thing called creationism.
There is, and this is a big source of controversy, especially in the United States, because in some places, people want to teach creationism as well as evolution in schools. And so this is the big question. Are they still equal as theories, or is one theory more proven than the other?
Right. And it is kind of hard to determine which one is better because one is based on faith. The other one is based more on scientific evidence, right? So they're not really even on the same scale. As we learned before, that's kind of like apples and oranges, right?
It is, and there are some people who would say that we have lots of ways of quote-unquote proving what happened in the past, but as long as we weren't there, we never really do know.
Right.
And there's always changes in science, so how can we be sure that what we know now isn't false, isn't misunderstandings?
Right. I think for now, this is the best explanation, but that doesn't mean that it's the correct one. Maybe in 100 years from now, we'll have another explanation that's much better or maybe complementary to this one. Well, we want to know what you guys think. Come to our website, englishpod.com. We really want to hear your opinions. What do you think about this topic? It is a little bit controversial, so we really look forward to your comments and any other questions you may have.
Yep, and just a reference, creationism is the idea that God created the world or a superior being created the world and that everything came from that. And so let us know what you think. I am very curious too. And that's about it for today.
All right.
So,
we'll see you guys there.
Bye-bye.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. Bored or annoyed.
Sick and tired.
In a state of disagreement.
At odds with.
Logical and consistent.
Coherent.
To make something as small as possible.
Minimize.
Including many faults.
Full of holes.
A school that provides training in special subjects.
Academy.
A process by which the best creatures survive.
Natural selection.
A confusing or difficult problem.
Conundrum.
Let's try that faster. To make something as small as possible.
Minimize.
Bored or annoyed.
Sick and tired.
Logical and consistent.
Coherent.
A process by which the best creatures survive.
Natural selection.
In a state of disagreement.
At odds with.
A confusing or difficult problem.
Conundrum.
Including many faults.
Full of holes.
A school that provides training in special subjects.
Academy.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of eating beans for every meal. Sick and tired. After 30 years of marriage, she became sick and tired of waiting on him hand and foot. Sick and tired. We are sick and tired of corruption. We demand change now. At odds with. The professor's opinions were often at odds with his students' views. At odds with. The president was often at odds with Congress. At odds with. Instead of being continually at odds with each other, the competitors agreed to cooperate. Coherent. She could speak at length about films in a coherent and eloquent manner. Coherent. The dazed man could not deliver a coherent response to his rescuers. Coherent. This report is confusing and entirely incoherent. Write it again. Minimize. I don't want to minimize your contributions to this company, but you must admit that idea was not yours. Minimize. Minimize your impact on the environment and try to recycle. Minimize. During the interview, she minimized her weaknesses and emphasized her strengths. Full of holes. Your paper is well written, but your thesis is full of holes. Full of holes. We need to buy a new bucket. This one is full of holes. Full of holes. The jury decided the man was guilty because his case was full of holes.
Hello, English learners. Welcome back to English Pod. My name is Marco.
And my name is Catherine, and today we're talking about something very serious.
Very serious. Today we're talking about capital punishment.
So if you've never heard that phrase before, you might have heard another name for this topic. It's called the death penalty.
Right. So if you commit a crime, and basically the judge says that you will have to be put to death for that crime.
All right, so many countries no longer have this law. The United States, you can see it in some places, some states, but not in others. So what we're talking about today is the debate between to have the death penalty and to not have it.
All right, so we're going to actually have a little debate in the end of if we agree that we should have the death penalty or not. But before that, why don't we listen to this dialogue for the first time?
That's all for today's class. We will continue our lecture on crime and punishment tomorrow.
Do you think we should be tougher on crime?
Well, it depends on what you mean.
For example, we could bring back the death penalty for murder, give longer prison sentences for lesser offenses, and lock up juvenile offenders.
Those sound like really draconian measures. Firstly, what do you do about miscarriages of justice if you've already put innocent people to death?
You'd only use capital punishment if you were absolutely sure that you convicted the right person.
But there have been many cases of wrongful conviction where people have been imprisoned for many years. The authorities were sure at the time, but later it was shown that the evidence was unreliable. In some cases, it had been fabricated by the police.
Well, no system of justice can be perfect, but surely there's a good case for longer prison sentences to deter serious crime.
I doubt whether they could act as an effective deterrent while the detection rate is so low. The best way to prevent crime is to convince people who commit it that they're going to be caught. It doesn't make sense to divert all your resources into the prison system.
But if you detect more crimes, you'll still need prisons. In my reckoning, if we could lock up more juvenile criminals, they'd learn that they can't get away with it. Soft sentences will merely encourage them to do it again.
Yes, but remember that prisons are often schools for criminals. To remove crime from society, you really have to tackle its causes.
Well, if I were president, I would impose tougher laws and punishment. I would have a peaceful society based on fear of punishment, not consciousness of doing the right thing.
You sound like a dictator.
Well, if it works, why not? All right, so Marco, there's a lot of really great legal terms here, legal and crime terms. And so let's look at a few of these in today's language takeaway.
Language takeaway.
All right, so let's take a look at the first one. They mentioned juvenile offenders.
All right, so let's look at these two words because, offender can be pretty general. It's someone who commits a crime. Mm-hmm. So an offender. But we're talking about a special kind of offender. Here we're talking about juvenile offenders.
Mm-hmm. So they're young offenders.
Right, and in America, legally, you're a juvenile offender if you're under the age of 18.
Okay, so if you commit a crime while you are a juvenile, you get judged differently, right? You don't get the same treatment as an adult.
Right. Usually the punishments are not as harsh because people like to think that younger people, younger children or teenagers, they don't really understand the law. They don't really understand crime or good and bad. So
right.
We should be easier on them.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. So we have juvenile offenders and we also have wrongful conviction.
All right, this is an uh-oh moment for a judge because a wrongful conviction, well, conviction, first of all, is a decision. So this is a court's decision on whether or not a person is guilty.
So you convicted the person.
Right. Marco was convicted guilty of stealing my computer.
I was too. That happened.
Okay. Right. But it's a wrongful conviction if Marco didn't really steal a computer, but we decided that he did.
Okay. So it was a wrong decision.
Right. It was a bad decision in the sense that it's actually not what happened in reality.
Mm-hmm. A wrongful conviction. Very good. And actually related to a wrongful conviction, many times it happens because evidence is fabricated by the police.
All right. So this is a big no-no. This is something that really shouldn't happen, and it's against the law in many countries. So fabrication, or to fabricate, is to fake, to make something up.
Mm-hmm.
And so evidence that's fabricated is evidence that the police or other people create to try and make someone look guilty, but it's not actually evidence. It's not really...
it's not true.
It's not true.
Right.
Yeah.
And now moving on, they were talking about a deterrent for crime.
Okay, so to deter is a verb. To deter means to try and get someone to not do something. All right. So I'm going to try and deter my staff from taking early lunch breaks. Okay. So I'm going to punish someone as a deterrent.
As a deterrent. Okay, so you have the verb deter and you have the noun, a deterrent.
Right. Yeah, and so oftentimes very strict laws are meant to be deterrents. They're meant to keep people from doing bad things, from breaking the law.
All right, so for example, capital punishment is one of those deterrents. If you kill somebody, then if you get caught, you are also going to be killed.
So that means I'm never going to kill anyone because I don't want the law to decide that I'm going to get killed.
Exactly. And our last word for today, they were talking about imposing tougher laws. I would impose tougher laws.
Okay, so to impose is a verb that means to put in place or to set up or enact. And so
But by force, right? You don't really agree to do it.
like the dictator imposes his will. All right, so he makes everyone do what he wants. But we can impose measures that do something. It's kind of like forcibly making people follow some kind of rule or follow a person.
Now, sometimes you would see that you have a company or you have people at your house and they're like, well, stay over for dinner. And they're like, oh, I wouldn't want to impose.
All right, so I wouldn't want to bother you or I wouldn't want to create more work for you because, when you're making food, you have all these people. They don't want to impose on you.
All right, so that's another way of using this, impose on somebody. All right, so after all of these words that we've taken a look at, why don't we start now with Fluency Builder?
Fluency Builder.
Okay, so as you know, Fluency Builder is a place where we get to talk about some phrases and words that allow you to be more fluent in English. So these are sometimes idioms or sometimes phrases, words that go together commonly. And the first one is no exception. It's a miscarriage. So miscarriage of justice.
All right, a miscarriage of justice. Now we have different words here. The first one, miscarriage, it's usually related to a medical term.
Right, it's a pregnancy. Well, it's a pregnancy that has a sad result. It's a pregnancy where the woman's baby dies or the woman loses the baby. And a miscarriage of justice is a metaphor. It's a way to say that justice was not carried out. It means that, for example, with those wrongful convictions, the law failed
To accomplish its objective.
Yeah, to accomplish its objective and to be fair.
Okay, so a miscarriage of justice. Interesting. And moving on to our next phrase, they were talking and discussing this whole death penalty situation, and she mentioned, in my reckoning.
All right, so this is a great way to share your opinion or your idea with someone. You're saying pretty much, in my opinion, according to me, or, the way I'm thinking is this.
So I can also say, I reckon, right?
Exactly. I reckon it's going to rain later. I think it's going to rain. So in my reckoning, in my opinion.
All right. I reckon. And to finish off Fluency Builder, they said that the person or the criminal couldn't get away with it.
All right, so this is another one of those phrases that each word maybe means something different. You can get somewhere, but put together, to get away with something means to do something bad or illegal or that's not okay without getting caught.
Or being punished.
So
you can say, get away with murder.
He got away with murder. He did something that was really, really bad, but no one caught him.
And also it means the criminal got away, so they couldn't catch him.
Right, or I could always say to my brother, he would always lie to my parents and get away with it. So that he never got caught, he never got punished.
Okay, so he got away with his lie or got his way.
Right.
All right, so I think this is an interesting phrase. Why don't we listen to a couple of more examples?
Example 1.
Do you think we could get away with using the cheaper product?
Example 2.
Thieves got away with 2 Picassos, which were never found.
Example 3.
He almost got away with murder. Unfortunately for him, the police discovered his secret.
So we've taken a look at a lot of great phrases. Why don't we listen to our dialogue for the last time, and then we'll come back.
That's all for today's class. We will continue our lecture on crime and punishment tomorrow.
Do you think we should be tougher on crime?
Well, it depends on what you mean.
For example, we could bring back the death penalty for murder, give longer prison sentences for lesser offenses, and lock up juvenile offenders.
Those sound like really draconian measures. Firstly, What do you do about miscarriages of justice if you've already put innocent people to death?
You'd only use capital punishment if you were absolutely sure that you convicted the right person.
But there have been many cases of wrongful conviction where people have been imprisoned for many years. The authorities were sure at the time, but later it was shown that the evidence was unreliable. In some cases, it had been fabricated by the police.
Well, no system of justice can be perfect, but surely there's a good case for longer prison sentences to deter serious crime.
I doubt whether they could act as an effective deterrent while the detection rate is so low. The best way to prevent crime is to convince people who commit it that they're going to be caught. It doesn't make sense to divert all your resources into the prison system.
But if you detect more crimes, you'll still need prisons. In my reckoning, if we could lock up more juvenile criminals, they'd learn that they can't get away with it. Soft sentences will merely encourage them to do it again.
Yes, but remember that prisons are often schools for criminals. To remove crime from society, you really have to tackle its causes.
Well, if I were president, I would impose tougher laws and punishment. I would have a peaceful society based on fear of punishment, not consciousness of doing the right thing.
You sound like a dictator.
Well, if it works, why not?
All right, so now the big question, Catherine. Do you agree with the death penalty?
Oh, this is a big one, and I don't think we have enough time to go into it in much detail here, but I definitely think that is extreme, right? And so we have this phrase, draconian measures.
Right,
and I
they
think,
mentioned that in the dialogue.
yeah, so draconian, something that's draconian is excessive or severe, you know? And I think that there are a lot of reasons not to have the death penalty, because the death penalty, well, you're pretty much saying, we as a society think that murder is wrong, but we're going to show you that you've done a wrong thing, like a bad thing that's against the law, by killing you. All right, and so I have to disagree with that on a philosophical level.
But what about practical?
Practically speaking, I think that there are a lot of problems with the prison system and the legal system in the United States, for example, because prisons are really crowded. 1% of the American population is in prison. And so I think that so long as the prison system still has problems, there's a really good argument for having the death penalty. But still, I think that it's excessive and it's unnecessary and that there are other ways to treat and punish prisoners.
It is an interesting topic because you have many different angles that are in favor or against the death penalty. For example, you have religious views where you say that you should not take a life of another person no matter what. Or you have other views that say that the death penalty is simply wrong and that you can't right a wrong with another wrong.
Right? Exactly.
So it kind of doesn't make sense. But at the same time, you do, like you say, the prisons are full of people and it costs around, I think it's $12,000 a year per person to keep them in prison. So what do you do with all of these people that have life sentences that are going to spend the rest of their lives in jail? So it is interesting. And many countries are very, very strict with their legal system in comparison with the United States, right?
Definitely, but there is a statistic that's pretty stunning that I think among the top 20 developed nations in the world, I think only the United States is the one with the death penalty.
Exactly. And actually the ratio of people compared to the population that are in jail is much higher in the United States than in other countries.
That's true.
So it is a very questionable topic, but we want to know what you think. Do you think that the death penalty is a justifiable way to do justice? Or do you think maybe it's just wrong and we shouldn't have it anymore?
Yeah, we're hoping that that this will get the conversation going on our website. If you have any opinions, please let us know about them. Englishpod.com is the website. And of course, you can always email us or send us a PM if you're a little bit shy.
All right, so we'll see you guys there.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. The English Pod Audio Review. Listen to the meaning, then say the vocabulary word. The punishment of death.
Death penalty.
The act of changing the direction or use of something.
Diversion.
The amount of time to keep criminals in jail.
Prison sentence.
Expecting or requiring people to obey rules or laws.
Authoritarian.
Underage criminals.
Juvenile offender.
An issue that causes disagreement between people and causes them to separate into different groups.
Divisive topic.
Very strict and severe.
Draconian.
A person who continues to commit crimes even after being caught and punished.
Recidivist.
An unjust legal decision.
Miscarriage of justice.
To teach a criminal in prison to live a normal and productive life.
Rehabilitate.
Punishment of death.
Capital punishment.
To make something up to trick people.
Fabricate.
Something that prevents people from doing something.
Deterrent.
To move resources from one thing to another.
Divert.
Someone who rules with absolute power.
Dictator.
Let's try that faster. To make something up to trick people.
Fabricate.
Very strict and severe.
Draconian.
An unjust legal decision.
Miscarriage of justice.
Underage criminals.
Juvenile offender.
The punishment of death.
Death penalty.
The amount of time to keep criminals in jail.
Prison sentence.
Someone who rules with absolute power.
Dictator.
An issue that causes disagreement between people and causes them to separate into different groups.
Divisive topic.
Expecting or requiring people to obey rules or laws.
Authoritarian.
Punishment of death.
Capital punishment.
The act of changing the direction or use of something.
Diversion.
To teach a criminal in prison to live a normal and productive life.
Rehabilitate.
Something that prevents people from doing something.
Deterrent.
To move resources from one thing to another.
Divert.
A person who continues to commit crimes even after being caught and punished.
Recidivist.
Now say the word and hear it in a sentence.
Death penalty. Many religious groups object to the death penalty. Death penalty. The death penalty is one of the most divisive topics in America. Death penalty. Statistics about the effectiveness of the death penalty in crime deterrence are often conflicting. Draconian. Some small American towns are enacting draconian laws against dancing. Draconian. The word draconian comes from an ancient Greek lawyer under whom small offenses had heavy punishments. Draconian. In places with draconian laws, there may be law and order, but there is no personal freedom. Fabricate. The boy fabricated the entire story. There was no wolf at all. Fabricate. The factory can fabricate almost any textile. Fabricate. New studies have found that even DNA evidence can be easily fabricated. Deterrent. Bike locks are good theft deterrents. Deterrent. Many studies have proven that long jail sentences are not an effective crime deterrent. Deterrent. When traveling in these mountains, we recommend carrying a long stick to deter mountain lion attacks. Divert. The government will divert future revenue into paying off the national debt. Divert. Beaver dams can divert an entire river. Divert. One thief diverted the victim's attention while the other thief stole his wallet.